Hey everyone, welcome back to some more esports talk. My name is Hunter, and we have got a bit of a doozy today as we talk about the drama that was surrounding G2's decision to replace Athena with Richard Lewis as the host of The Grid. Athena is a well-known Rocket League player who coined the term the Athena Flick, who recently parted ways with G2. With her departure, a slot needed to be filled in the broadcast with Orb. It seems like a lot of people had high hopes for who could possibly fill this spot, like someone who was maybe native to the Rocket League scene or a ex-player or something like that who was involved in the scene more so than maybe Richard Lewis was. The internet became pretty heavily divided by this decision, I would say. So, in fact, let me just read a few of the tweets that we saw in response to this announcement. Is that the same Richard Lewis who has been insulting and generally toxic to a majority of the Rocket League community? Disappointed G2 would support such a person, no matter how talented a caster they might be. Y'all know this dude has 50% of the Rocket League scene blocked on Twitter, right? G2 needs to respond to this. I don't care if he's a respectable journalist or even if he's right in all of his arguments. He's a scumbag in the way he treats human beings. By hiring him, G2 are stating they literally don't care about the Rocket League community. They haven't even defended themselves, saying his views don't reflect theirs. He's insulting people in the replies of the announcement. We may not be their biggest or main game, but they still have a team and are therefore a part of our community. They could at least pretend to care about what matters.
That's going to be a yikes for me, dog. That's going to be a yikes from me. I never give a yikes. I never give a fucking yikes. I don't like yikes. I think yikes is overdone. It's overplayed. I think people use yikes too much. Yikes should have stayed in Scooby-Doo for me. But this is a fucking yikes. This is yikes. This is yikes in block capitals yikes. It's unbelievable.
And tweets and Reddit posts like that just keep going, so there's not really a point in me reading all of them, to be perfectly honest. There's a lot of people involved in the community, whether it's professional players or just casual fans, who are upset about this hiring of Richard Lewis. The drama seems to stem back to issues that Lewis had with Leaf, a Rocket League caster. And so the general vibe just seemed to be getting more and more negative about the announcement as time went on. Likely due to the fact that Lewis is well known for stooping to low levels on Twitter, which ended up just pissing off more and more people. We see someone insulting him, saying that you are ugly, please do this without the face cam on next time. While Richard Lewis then responds with a picture of that person that he must have found, I guess, on his profile, saying, you look like David Koresh and the BTK killer wanked into a chicken embryo. Shut the F up. Then he has this entire thread of him just putting down this other person who ended up deleting their tweets, so we can't even see what they were saying, which I'm sure was equally as bad stuff. But Richard says, I am more important than you. You can't even type legible English and will never work a job that matters. Get me canceled for telling you that. Humble yourself, says the 18-year-old who has achieved F all in their lives. Good to see you are so mentally ill, you think that you speak for a whole community. Get outside sometime, you effing mess. I am telling you I am more important than you because you are worthless. Try and get me canceled for telling you that fact. I'm legit in bed scrolling and getting paid to call you a c***. Get me canceled. Come on, you worthless loser. I'm breaking all the rules you set. Come hurt my career. And let me just say this. Lewis did make his own video on the subject and talking about the Rocket League community, where he does talk about how he got a lot of hate from them as well. I mean, of course, it's the internet and people are going to come out and be, toxic. And they were saying all these awful things, which I think is extremely important to acknowledge in this situation. It's not like he was just coming out of the gate with this stuff necessarily, where they were saying nice things and he was just, immediately responding with all this hateful kind of messages back and forth. But they did, in fact, say stuff like threatening him, threatening his family. And so it's not like it was just a one-sided thing. Both sides were being equally as toxic, I would say. And so, yes, he definitely got tons of hate and filthy messages from strangers on the internet. But personally, I just don't think a good look for a professional is stooping down to these levels of just strangers on the internet, right? Like, why do you have to go through every single reply and respond to them in an equally, if not worse, toxic manner? It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense for a professional to be doing those sort of things. And I think that ended up being a large part of the problem that people had was that Richard Lewis seems to be farming off of these, negative, hateful comments and emotions. I mean, he just goes through Twitter and responds to all of them and, calls people out who don't have a following or who are younger than him. And then he goes and makes a YouTube video on them as well. And so it's kind of like just farming off of these negative emotions and this negative content. In fact, I think Train had a very great response and, way to point out exactly what he does. And I think, to me at least, that is what feels the most off about this situation, is that you see someone like Richard Lewis, who, yes, has a great background of work, a great professional background of what he's done and what he's accomplished, but then he goes and starts trash talking 15, 16, 17, 18-year-olds on the internet when he is going to cast a game and host a show that is about a game that is primarily a younger audience. And so he's on Twitter trash talking them and telling them how worthless they are and how they'll never amount to anything and how they have mental illnesses. And yet he still gets hired to host a show that is pretty much made for that same audience. And so a very interesting situation. I think the broadcast did actually go pretty well. I watched it and I thought the casting was good. There was a few awkward moments in there, of course, but I think overall it was good. He did a good job casting the event.
You can type it in chat so everybody can see it, but it will be on your screen so you can't see it.
The-
You type in the keyword.
You gotta feel sorry for Fuse RL in the chat. He couldn't even spell copium. It was just on screen a few moments ago. You're counted out. It's not an N at the end. It's not copium. Come on, it's copium.
Listen, I can't spell either, so I'm right with him.
And I'm also gonna be giving out Twitter blocks just periodically over the course of the broadcast as well. So make sure, but make sure you get those.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, everybody loves free stuff. That's what I've heard.
The chat was originally pretty out of hand at first, with people spamming Richard Lewis can't block me here until the mods got a handle on it. But I mean, shout out to Orb, shout out to Richard Lewis in this situation, because I do think the broadcast went well overall. I think it was enjoyable to watch. I think the casting went well. And so I don't want it all to be negative about the situation, but I do have to question G2's hiring of Lewis in this entire ordeal, because maybe their thought process was, hey, this is a guy who does good work and will bring new viewership into the scene. He's not necessarily from the Rocket League scene, and so maybe him casting this, him hosting this event is going to bring in more people who wouldn't normally tune in and watch, right? But then you have the entire flip side of it, of this is a guy who is just toxic on the internet, who has a history of beef with the Rocket League scene and brags about, who he blocks on Twitter. And so it's just an interesting situation and an interesting choice by G2. So what do you guys think about it? Do you think it was a good move? Do you think they accomplished their objective in it? Until next time, guys, be safe, be smart, behave, and I'll catch you later.